So I have one more psoas release to work with here, unless this is the first psoas release video you're looking at, and then, hey, I've got a psoas release for you. This psoas release really deals with the fact that if your psoas is tight, your hamstrings are tight. If your hamstrings are tight, your psoas is tight. We're going to let gravity work on both parts. Often when people lie down on the floor on their backs, if their legs are fully extended, it starts to pull in their lower back. And that happens because, I don't know if you can see that gap between my thighs and the floor. That's because I have tight hamstrings. If I have tight hamstrings, as gravity pulls my leg down, it's going to pull my pelvis, tipping it, and crunch on my lower back. It's going to feel very uncomfortable. So then what people often do is they put something under their knees or thighs to keep the leg from pulling down any further, which stops pulling on the back. The problem with that is you maintain the same status of tight hamstrings, tight psoas. We want that to change. So the first thing we're going to do is actually lift the torso up higher and bolster it. So I'm using a blanket and this half roller. You could use a couple blocks stacked next to each other. You could use a bolster. You could roll up this blanket. And you're going to want to go as high as you need to so that your legs can be flat on the floor. Now you also are going to want something for your head to be even higher. So I'm going to put this bolstering under my shoulder blades and my head. And you can see there's a gap where my ribs are not resting on anything. They're not up on the bolsters. They're not on the floor. But you can also see there's no more gap under my thighs. My thighs are now on the floor. There is a gap at the back of my knees. Give me time. So you want to come as high as you need to get your thighs down on the floor. If I bolster lower than this, my thighs are going to come back up. You might need to bolster even higher. Arms can be out to the side, wherever you want. I'm going to cross them over simply for visuals. This is not a position I would usually rest in. I like to rest with my arms out. Some people rest with hands here, but as you can see, you can't tell what's going on. So for your visual, I'm going to just cross these over. And as I'm lying here, I want to relax my ribs toward the floor with each exhale. So I'm not forcing them down. My legs are relaxed and they even have a little bit of external rotation. But you can see that as I breathe here, that little window gap behind my back is getting smaller. It also, if I open my arms where I like them, has a bit of a slumped feeling in the chest. Most people are comfortable here. Every once in a while, someone might feel this a little bit at their sacrum. You can adjust your sacrum if need be, or even add some cushioning if need be. If you're having some sciatica issues, this might not be your best pose right now because it does put a little bit of pressure on the sciatic nerve. But as you can see, the longer I stay here, my ribs are relaxing down. As my ribs relax down, that's also my psoas releasing from its overwork. And that helps my hamstrings release. So my hamstrings get a chance to rest toward the floor, which they don't get if I'm always bolstering them. And my ribs and psoas get a chance to relax toward the floor, which they don't get if my legs are pulling on that or if I bolster the knees and don't allow any of this to change. This can be used in place of Shavasana. This can be used to read a book. I don't care. Do something. But again, my legs are relaxed here. I'm not trying to keep them parallel. If you wanted to keep them parallel so as not to add the external rotation, then you could take a belt and literally tie above your knees. And I'm just tying here for time's sake, right? But you could tie your legs together such that your toes are pointed to the ceiling, but it doesn't require any effort to hold them there. The belt's doing that for you. So you can also counter that external rotation, which also pulls on the psoas. Bring your head higher than your shoulders. This should be an angle. Bring your shoulders up onto something. Make sure you're not under your lower ribs. You're under your shoulders, shoulder blades. That's all I've got. That's the capital P, capital R, Psoas Release. It is one of my favorite places to put people to rest. to put myself to rest. It's just a lovely place to be. Enjoy.